Like my friend Anita Krishna in Canada, she worked for a global news or a big news network. She started to ask just regular questions. She's like, isn't that what we're supposed to be doing? We're a news organization. Isn't that what we do as a news organization? And she got fired for that, of course.
Crazy.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I have one of my favies standing by. He's really one of my favorite people, although I don't talk to him very often. He is a Canadian veteran. He is one of the people that has had his bank account frozen by Miss Chrystia Freeland and the Trudeau Liberal government. What we're going to talk about today is the Emergencies Act, and we're going to talk about some other things also. But why don't I bring him on in right now, Mr. Eddie Cornell. Hi, Eddie.
Hi, Anita. How are you?
Not too bad. How are you?
Doing okay.
We're just, it's a loaded question. We're all just hanging in there now, right?
Yeah.
By the seat of our pants with the way the world is going, especially now.
Oh, what a clown show.
Before we get into talking about it, maybe we should remind people that it was about a year ago that a Canadian judge, Justice Mosley, ruled that Trudeau's Emergency Act was, how did he put it, unjustified, right?
Yeah, ultra vires.
Ultra vires. What does that mean exactly?
It means it was illegal. That's the term that they used on the actual judgment, was ultra vires. So.
Oh, that's the term that they used, ultra vires. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So let's just remind people where we were at. This was about a year ago, right? That this happened?
Yeah, January 24th last year.
Oh, wow. Okay. This is from a show I used to watch. I don't even know if it's on anymore, but they covered this. Let's have a look at what they said at the time.
News for Justin Trudeau. A Canadian federal judge has ruled that Trudeau's controversial use of the Emergencies Act during the 2022 Freedom Convoy trucker protests in Canada was, quote, unreasonable and unjustified. Trudeau used the act to seize the bank accounts of protesters and ban public assembly in certain areas, amongst other widespread anti-protest policies. Now, as a reminder, the Freedom Convoy protests were pushed back against the government's COVID-19 vaccine mandates and lasted several weeks during the early months of 2022.
In response, Trudeau's government vowed to appeal the decision, saying they believed that invoking the Emergencies Act was, quote, right and necessary at the time. Here's Trudeau's Deputy Prime Minister, Chrystia Freeland, on that.
It was a hard decision to take. We took it very seriously after a lot of hard work, after a lot of careful deliberation. We were convinced at the time, I was convinced at the time, it was the right thing to do. It was the necessary thing to do. I remain, and we remain, convinced of that.
What do you think when you see that now, her words?
Yeah, it's, they're desperate.
Yeah.
Just think about it. Back when that decision dropped on the 24th of January last year, 14 minutes after, they announced through the media that they were going to appeal that decision. How can you read 194 pages in 14 minutes? It all dropped to everybody at the same time. There was no advanced copies or anything. So they can't stand to lose. That's what it is.
Yeah, I remember my old Global News place I used to work barely covered anything about the protests. Barely, you know how the media covered it all, just like they're a bunch of radical terrorists or whatever, enforcing blockades and whatnot. And I remember the clip that they ran was the one that I just ran there. Chrystia going, "We took it seriously and we will appeal." And that's all they ran. That's all the news ran. So that's interesting you say within 14 minutes that was what was entered into the news cycle. I remember that. Yeah. So they can't stand losing, and it makes you think, did you even read the damn thing? Is that what you think?
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't have a chance to read it. They didn't like the decision, and to actually lose such a massive case, they're going to do anything they can to do it. And that's what they've done. They've appealed. And, it's funny, they haven't really introduced anything new in their appeal, which comes up on the 4th and 5th of next week in February in Toronto, and they've got 3 justices. So, you know, they've basically got rid of all the government lawyers. They've hired a big Toronto firm, and I think they're up to over $2 million to try and get this appeal and get this decision overturned. So they'll
Oh
stop
my
at
God.
no lengths to, yeah, it's ridiculous.
So this is the latest
mean,
thing. Like, it's
They
been a year.
violated our rights.
Yeah. So the latest is that this appeal, there's even though Parliament is prorogued, the country is in chaos. As far as you know, or this is actually still happening, they are still planning on appealing this next week.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it goes to court on the 4th and the 5th. It'll be the 2 days, and you know, hopefully we'll have a decision by summer. And yeah, it's absolutely outrageous. Think about it. In this country, if you speak up or stand up against a government policy, they come at you with the full force of the law and with the police and everything else. But if you're not criticizing the government, you're causing violence in the streets and causing all kinds of other things. It's okay, go ahead. They agree with your protests. Remember,
Yeah.
Trudeau said himself, he said that, yeah, he's all about, you know, giving people the right to protest in this country as long as it's something that he agrees with. He actually said
I
that.
know. Even Chris
Isn't that why
just
you
said that.
protest?
Yeah. I agree with people protesting or whatever. I remember when she was giving that thing for the liberal leadership, and all the protesters were they all had infiltrated her little talk there. They were probably planned, I think, those people or whatever. But with all this, all that's going on in the country right now, are you surprised that the government is still able to do this and put resources into making an appeal to overturn this judgment? Are you surprised? Are you surprised?
No, because I'm not surprised at all, because they only think about themselves. That's all they do. You know, with what's happened with the tariffs coming in on Tuesday, our
Mhm.
government is, you know, wanting to retaliate. You really think that's the best interest? And all of a sudden, all the pearl clutching, you know, wannabe patriots that suddenly found their patriotism and are all waving their Canadian flags, how they're going to save Canada. Well, maybe it's a little too late. Maybe you should have spoke up a few years ago when we were all telling our government is going the wrong direction. Well, here we are a couple of years later, and this is the result of a government that is lusting for power.
Yeah, absolutely. But what is to be gained by this? Like, when the judge ruled in your favor that it was unjustified, the Emergencies Act, because at the end of the day, it wasn't a threat to national security, right? Like, if you were worried about what was going on in Coots and stuff like that, the provincial police were there to handle that. This wasn't a national threat. So the judge saw it like that. He's like, nope, this was unjustified. Now, what do you think is to be gained by them overturning this? Is it just, what is it?
They want to win, plain and simple. They can't accept defeat, and
Yeah.
they'll do anything to make sure that they win. They will literally spend whatever it takes to get the decision that they want. If you look at it and everything that this government has done, it's not been for anything else other than themselves. And I think Canadians are finally waking up to the fact that this government doesn't give a rat's about any of our people in this country. They only care about themselves and their concentration of power. And it's really obvious right now.
Absolutely. I'm going to play another quick little clip, but you're absolutely right. They only care about themselves, because Chrystia Freeland only resigned when it was her own job on the line. She didn't give a toss about anybody else. It was only when it came for her, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Here's a little look back. This is something from the CBC.
Hot tubs, barbecues, and bouncy castles got lumped in with the words national security threat. The goal of protesters who had descended on Ottawa from across the country was to disrupt.
They can arrest us, we'll go peacefully and send in more people.
They were angry about COVID vaccination rules.
I don't even like the way he said that. They were angry about COVID vaccination rules. No, it was about so much more than that. You know, we
It
all
was.
know that. We don't even have to explain. It was, you know, like an experimental jab that you didn't want to take, that came from out of nowhere. And if you didn't take it, you could be fired from your job, not able to pay your mortgage, and you're not going to get EI. And they were putting this on. That is one thing Canadians didn't like, but also they were putting this on the truck drivers in the beginning, which is a solitary job. So that's what people were complaining about. I hate the way the media spins
Time
it.
that these mandates end, these tyrannical COVID passports got to go.
They blocked traffic downtown,
Oh,
threw
no.
parties, launched fireworks,
Look at these horrible people.
shouted,
Oh, you know, it's just ridiculous. That's how Canadians protest, right? Are we awful? You know, anyway. So
But you know,
next, yeah, go.
I was just going to say, it shows, you know, the Canadian spirit. There was nothing violent, nothing underhanded. You know, they tried to paint it as a January 6th insurrection and how it was an occupation. If any street was blocked in Ottawa, it was strictly because the police blocked it off. We had safe lanes all the way through, all around the city. People could come and go. You could get to work. You could get out of the city. You could do whatever you want. It might take you a couple minutes longer, but you could literally go anywhere. They could walk to work. It was the safest place to be. It was a party atmosphere, but they couldn't stand the fact that people stood up to the government, and they were going to do anything they needed to do to squash any dissension. And that's exactly what they did. And, you know, it's still funny to see people, oh, I didn't agree with the trucker convoy. You know what? The truckers and that convoy saved the world. It really did. It
Because it
changed the world.
inspired a lot of people. It inspired what the Dutch farm protest. It inspired people in the U.S. to do the same thing. I mean, because it put us on the map because we don't
sure did.
mobilize. Yeah, in that way. What do you think is going to happen next week? So what's your involvement in what's happening with this appeal?
Well, I know that I'm going to be switching from Heinz ketchup to French's ketchup. I think that that's how we get even with the United States. Oh,
I
I'm just
know.
kidding.
That's so funny.
You know, the best thing they could have done is not retaliate with any tariffs at all and engage in conversation. Close the damn border. That's what the government of the United States wanted. Close the border. No, instead, they don't say that. They say, well, we're going to put all of these tariffs on. And what's it going to do? It's punishing us.
Yes, it is. Oh, sorry. I meant. What are you? We can talk about the tariffs totally, but what are you going to do next week during this appeal, the Emergencies Act appeal? Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, well, there's so many things happening next week. I misunderstood. Sorry, but yeah, next week, the 4th and 5th, we're going to be in court in Toronto, and basically, it's the government that has to kind of state their case why this should be overturned. I mean, we've given our evidence. We've given everything we need. We don't really have to add anything. Our testimony is already there. We've already had a successful decision. The onus is now on them to prove that it shouldn't have gone that way. So we're going to see.
Right.
I think the Mosley decision is a very thorough, well-written document, and I think it's going to be very difficult to poke holes in it. But you know, they're not going to make an instant decision. They're going to listen to what the government has to say, and it's going to take time. They're going to deliberate on it. And who knows? I mean, the political climate is shifting. You know, you have to think, does the court want to make a bad decision with a possible change in government that could really affect, or does the government now want to toss it like a softball to the next government and not handle it? I don't know. There's so many things at play.
Yeah.
I mean, if they don't get a favorable decision, my opinion, I don't think it will end there. I think they'll possibly take it to the Supreme Court.
They just won't relent on this, and it's such a waste of taxpayer money. It's a win. Accept it as a win. You did wrong, government. You're doing lots of things wrong. Now pack it in. like, and but they don't. But I believe there's a Zoom link. There might be a Zoom link there where people could watch the court proceeding.
There is, yes. It's been shared pretty far and wide.
Okay.
I can repost it on my X. I'm Eddie Cornell. At Eddie Cornell 9 on X. If people want
Okay.
to go on there, I'll repost it. And you need to pre-register to actually view it. So
Okay. Okay, good. I'll post it too. I'll put it in the description. I'll post it
Okay.
on X also, and so people can crash the website or
It
whatever,
probably will.
and
It's literally gone around the world.
and see who these lawyers, these government lawyers are that are going to stand up and say, well, no, it was justified. Good luck to you. Let's see how you do. So
I think they're
to the
using a
lawyer.
private firm called, I think it's McKinley out of Toronto, a big law firm. And
I've
I
heard
think
of
they're
that.
going to be acting on behalf of the government.
Oh man, geez, what a waste of taxpayer money. Okay, so good luck with that. So that'll be on the 5th and the 6th. We're going to watch out for that. I mean, this will probably drag on a bit too, but at least we're letting the public know that the government didn't back down on this. They still want what they want. They want to be winners. And switching gears now, we're in this, everybody all over Twitter is talking about the Trump tariffs, right?
Yep.
And we alluded to that a little bit earlier. Basically, as far as I understand it, he is saying, clean up your damn border. So put some money into cleaning up the border, because I think that the truck, through truck drivers, the drugs get through through the shipyards, or longshoremen let drugs through. I mean, like, he's saying, clean that up. If you don't, there are tariffs. And what do you make of how we're retaliating? Like, Doug Ford is saying, don't buy booze, American booze. Like, and then David Eby is saying the same thing. What do you think of our tactics?
I think they're going in the wrong direction. Totally. That's just my
Yeah.
opinion. I don't think retaliating with massive tariffs is going to have the effect. They should have said, you know what? We are going to close the border. Yes, we're going to do that. And that's not the first thing they say. They're talking about canceling, all of the American products coming into this country. I mean, do you really want to have a trade war with the US? Is that really the direction we're going?
Right.
There's no winners here. We're not going to win anything. And, you got Doug Ford calling a snap election in Ontario so he can get a 4-year mandate. For what? Like, you've already got a majority government. Why are you calling an election? It seems to be a diversion tactic that these people use whenever there's a crisis. Trudeau runs and hides. And then in 21, in order to, prevent any information coming about the level 4 lab in Winnipeg, he calls a snap election. Now Doug Ford doing the same thing. Trudeau prorogues Parliament. This are governments that are out of control. These people, I don't think they could run a daycare camp for an afternoon. If I just don't think they really have an idea of what they're dealing with when it comes to the United States. This did not have to happen. Trudeau should have called an election prior to Trump getting elected, but he didn't believe Trump would get elected. And he thought all of that talk was just talk. But he should have taken it very seriously, called an election. And let's say he won. He'd be in a better position to actually deal with this crisis. But we all know he wouldn't win. In no way. I think, I'm sure there's a lot of liberal holdouts up there, but, it's almost like a cult now with those people. It's just, they're in it no matter what. They're never coming back. You can't deprogram those people.
No.
But yeah, it's a real crying shame. But all of a sudden, you think about it. The same people that the government weaponized to be enforcers for the state against people that made a medical decision not to take an experimental shot or questioned things that the government were doing, they became enforcers for the state. Those same people are now standing up and waving their Canadian flag and have found their patriotism and boycotting American products because their government told them to do it. You got to wake up and look at it for yourself. I mean, do you really think listening to exactly what your government tells you to do is the best way forward? I don't think so. Me personally, I'm going to buy what I want to buy. I'm not going to segregate from buying Canadian or versus US. You know what? I'm just sick of these people telling me what to do. I'm going to do what's best for me and my family, and that's it. And this government has nothing to do with, I think making things better for you and I and everybody else. They need to go. They need to call an election. We need to get a government in there that can run this country properly and get things back on track, because Trump won't even return a phone call to Trudeau. He won't talk to Jolie. He will not talk to Freeland. He wants nothing to do. It's radio silent. That tells you everything you need to know. They're done. Get out. What happened to the resignation? Oh, I plan to resign. The way things look, he's not going anywhere. We're going to install a guy that's never been elected as prime minister, and this guy's even worse. He actually has a brain, but he's more of a globalist than Trudeau. He's going to take us down a road I don't know if there's going to be any return from. I don't have a lot of faith.
Agreed. I love what you just said there. They think that the solution to this is taking away your Jack Daniels. If I want to have a Jack Daniels and Coke, I'm going to have a Jack Daniels and Coke, right? And it's taking away American liquor from restaurants and things like that. So then that affects their sales, their business. They're affecting Canadian business by doing that. And here in this province, David Eby doesn't give a toss about industry here. He doesn't care about our mining industry, our forest industry, our lumber, our gas, whatever. He doesn't care. He puts all these loopholes in to make them almost non-profitable. And now you're going to sit here and say, I care about Canada and buy Canadian. Nobody is buying him and his bull, right? All this is and you're so right about Trump not taking a phone call. He sees Trudeau as a joke. Why would he go around going, hello, governor? Like, he literally calls him the governor.
Think about it. He goes down to Mar-a-Lago. He gives him a supper, and they have a chat. Most leaders get to stay at Mar-a-Lago and then they have breakfast and have another meeting. No, Trump didn't do that. He kicked Trudeau out after supper and made him stay probably at a Motel 6 down the road. And
yeah, it's utterly ridiculous. And no premier has the chutzpah or the knowledge to address this correctly, other than perhaps Danielle Smith. Yes. Although I don't agree with her about everything. I wish she kind of stepped in more with the Coots people. I wish she was more supportive of Dr. Makis. But other than that, she was fortifying the border. She did go down and meet with him. She does have the smarts. If there's anybody to be prime minister, I would probably say her and Pierre. Yeah. What do you think?
Well, I'm not a big fan of Pierre, truthfully. I think he tends to move whichever the political winds are blowing. He moves in that direction. He only pokes his head up when it's safe to do so. I mean, the guy has got great sound bites. He says the right thing, but there's no depth there to me. I'm sorry. I don't buy it with him. Most of the things that are important to this country, he's basically the same as a liberal. And I think, if we had him as a government, I think about a year and a half later, the honeymoon will be over. You'll think, what is this, Trudeau 2.0? I just don't see it. That's me personally. I don't think he's the answer to. We don't have anybody on the horizon to save this country. You've got the PPC with Maxime Bernier doing a great job. I hope he gains some real traction with that. But it's not looking good on our political.
It's not looking good.
Skyline it's not looking good.
Is gonna be the guy. I hope. I mean, you're not the only person I've talked to that feels that way about Pierre. Although, we need, although there is no white knight that's gonna come save the day for us, but we are leaderless. Right.
We really are. We really are. I don't know. I think our country's in deep trouble, and we've got the Trudeau government to thank for that. And Trump knows it. He knows that this, feminist is, his days are numbered, and he doesn't want anything to do with him. And he even said if Pierre gets elected, he doesn't care what Pierre says. He's going to do what he wants. So it's going to be some very tough times ahead for all of us. And, the one thing I'd like to say, if you don't mind, is when I saw the Ottawa Senators game where they were booing the American national anthem, that's disgraceful. Us as Canadians should never be falling into that sort of stuff. These are governments dealing with governments. We don't, as people, need to treat people that are on the other side of the border from us in that regard. That's disgraceful, and it should never happen. That's just me. I like to say that. That type of behavior does not sit well with me.
Me neither. It is distasteful. We're cooler than that. We're better than that. So I
I think
agree.
so.
Yeah. I don't like that either. That kind of stuff's not cool with me. I've seen people tweet about that too. Daniel Bulford mentioned that he wasn't happy with that either. Yeah. I don't know. I guess we'll wait and see what ugh. It is
Like,
pretty bad.
everybody needs to kind of take a break and not panic. It's
Yeah.
going to get rough. We're going to feel a lot of pain in this country, but you can thank the liberals for that pain. And we need to close the darn border right now. That's the simple thing for them to do. That's what the Americans want. If they see a real effort to do that, I think things could change very quickly. But all of this talk about retaliation and escalating, and Trump even said today, I think, or last night, that, if Canada retaliates, I'm going to impose the tariffs at 50%. So where will this end? Just do what they
That's right.
ask. Get the border closed.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and that doesn't mean sucking up and bending the knee. That means address
No.
the problem that he's asking you to address, which is a valid problem. Just look around this country. You'll see people bent over on fentanyl everywhere you go. Homeless camps. People have died. Like, I know people that have died from fentanyl overdoses. Like, they were doing
disgraceful.
recreational drugs. Yeah, exactly. And they were healthy people, but they just tried something and they lost their life. So Trump is not wrong on this front. So for our leaders to be like, we're not gonna buy your Florida orange juice. You look like a joke. Like, we cannot stand up to the US just in terms of sheer numbers. So it's not acquiescing because we're weak. It's he's pushing us to try to do the right thing with the border. And I think
Yeah.
anybody that has some sense knows that, except for the people that watch the news that don't get that part of it.
I was in Washington in April, and anybody that would listen, I was telling the Americans, you need to look to your northern border. We are a massive security threat to your country on your northern border. Get your people to tell our people they need to shut the border and stop the flow of illegal drugs and illegal immigrants coming into the United States. And they were shocked, the people that I spoke to down there. They were not paying attention to the northern border. They were strictly looking at the southern border. And I saw a lot of very wide open eyes when I was talking about that sort of stuff with people down there. And now here it is. It's a reality. It's in our face.
Yeah.
And I don't know where this is going to end, but I hope it ends well.
Me too. Well, Eddie, thank you so much for talking to me today. It's really interesting to get your take. We'll talk some more. I mean, man, the year just started. I don't know. Gee whiz.
Well, thanks, Anita. It was great. Yeah, I'll be happy to speak anytime.
Yeah. Oh, perfect. And I'll post the link to the Zoom for the court case that's coming up in Toronto. We'll keep our eye on that.
Yeah, let's get as many eyeballs on that as we can. It's a really big deal.
Yeah, it is a big deal to take our victory and try to shove it down the toilet. I don't think so. Okay?
Okay.
You don't like it. All right. Eddie, have a lovely evening. It was so lovely to talk to you. Okay, thanks so much.
Take care.
Take care. And thank you guys for watching. We'll catch you next time.